Hi, I'd like to say that, first of all, C-SPAN is the greatest political program I've seen today, and I'd like to compliment Mr. Hitchens on standing up for Mr. Jackson. This is one of the first people I've seen do so. And I'd like to make or at least ask the question, how is it that America is supposed to change the way of the world, which is what hopefully we would like to do, if we don't change our basic policies and our basic thoughts towards the third world? The third world is going to be, or are right now, the majority. So we need someone who's going to take this country into a new political arena or a new stance, and I think the way to do it is to try and be friends with everyone. None of the other political candidates are even thinking on that idea. Jesse Jackson may have very liberal ideas. The insinuation of communism is absolutely ridiculous. And again, I say C-SPAN is a great program.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it. Chris?
Yeah, it reminds me to say something I meant to say earlier. When the Democratic Socialists of America, which is a liberal left organization, endorsed Jackson not long ago, Jackson's people actually returned the endorsement because it's, I mean, I just thought I'd mention it because of all these attributions of extremism to him. I mean, I am on the extreme left myself, and I can just tell you that Jesse Jackson isn't. More's the pity, in my view. He's just a good candidate in other respects.
Do Americans tolerate people who are on the extreme left in this country?
Yeah, I think they do. I think if you put it to someone, say, look, is so-and-so a communist? That's a particular word suggesting someone is a slavish supporter of the Soviet Union. Nobody's in favor of that. I think, as a matter of fact, some of the things that people who are said to be on the extreme left happen to believe are widely respected. Let me give an example from the gentleman's question about the Third World. The other night at his press conference, the President of the United States said that the problem in South Africa was not one of racism, it's a problem of tribalism, and that in effect gave the government there a leg up, a clean bill. Now, most of the American public is perfectly capable of knowing and for itself and deciding that's untrue, and is worried that the United States is on the wrong side in the battle for South Africa, which is going to be, already is in fact, a titanic battle, the last battle against colonialism in Africa, a battle on the scale of the battle for the independence of India. At the moment, Reagan has committed the US on the wrong side of that. Most Americans think it should be the other way around, and they're right. That's not an extreme left point of view, though it is a point of view held by the extreme left.
Yes, most Americans want to see an end to apartheid in South Africa, and yet most Americans also want to see South Africa remain a thriving economic state, which brings economic benefit to not only whites but blacks. And blacks not only in South Africa, but from neighboring regions who flock into South Africa for jobs and other economic opportunities. The danger, I think, in bashing South Africa from Mr. Hitchens' point of view is simply that it will tear down the system as it exists there today and replace it with something that we have in Angola, Mozambique, or Rhodesia, which will lead to economic disarray, decline, and poverty for the region as a whole.
Quick comment from both of you. Has the nation endorsed anybody for president?
Not yet, no.
Will they?
Yeah, we generally do. I mean, I think the staff and contributors would be divided between Jackson and Dukakis.
How about the American Spectator?
No, we do not endorse candidates. No.
Carbondale, Illinois, you're next.
Yeah, it's hard to hear you. Now that the socialists have taken over the Democratic Party, it seems like we're having a lot of trial by innuendo, and particularly with the Ed Meese thing. Another thing about Jesse Jackson, I got a lot of problems with him. When he was head of Operation Push, it seems like there were, I think, $1 or $2 million that were unaccounted for. Also, Jackson, not only did when he went down to Cuba and put his arm around Fidel and say, "Long live President Castro," like Castro was elected to something. He not only said that, but he said, "Long live Che Guevara, long live Patrice Lumumba," which is about two of the most bloodiest revolutionaries in modern times. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Reaction?
Yeah, well, I'd like to just bring the discussion back to the Third World for a moment. When people, such as the previous caller, called for a new approach to the Third World and so on and so forth, all I can think of is that most rhetoric in the left, in the U.S. about the Third World tends to focus on South Africa. If not South Africa, then Israel. And currently, I think Israel is in the lead as the country being most frequently bashed by progressive opinion in this country. I mean, Israel, a tiny country in the Middle East, beleaguered country, yet it is sort of the major cause for all unhappiness in the third world.
The Chicago Tribune put several reporters onto the Push account, the Push audit, and admitted after a very, very long investigation they couldn't find anything to stick on Jesse Jackson. Now, I don't know if they asked all the right questions, but I know that they had a very intensive investigation and they came up with nothing. But since you mentioned innuendo, I wonder how you think it is that the liberals and socialists of the Democratic Party have invented all this stuff about Ed Meese. I mean, where did we forge the WedTech contract? Where did we print the papers about the Iraqi pipeline contract? Where did we come up with all the business of rewarding his creditors with jobs that the Attorney General has engaged in? I mean, it is simply paranoid to say that this is a smear. All the evidence that's surfaced has surfaced in spite of Mr. Meese, and it's on the record formulated by nobody. It just exists objectively. If it doesn't disturb you, fair enough, but you shouldn't really say that the evidence has been invented.
Well, by singling out such evidence as you pointed to, I think you're simply ignoring what goes on in the world of politics today at every level on both left and right. And I think it's being mindlessly, I think, hypocritical to pretend that politics is something much more high-minded and clean.
Let's go to Tucson, Arizona. You're next.
Thank you. Next to Reagan, I don't believe there is anything on the right of him. Everyone else looks like they're far left as far as the political spectrum goes. I did have a question on Iran for Christopher, since he appears to be such an expert. There's a question I've had from the beginning of that affair, that is from the beginning of the revolution in Iran, that has never even been touched, that I know of, and that is what was the Ayatollah doing in France, sort of hiding away in France during the time when the Shah was still there, knowing that the Western world, France is like a power seat. And they knew what he was going to be doing, going back to Iran and to catalyze the people to himself. It would have been very simple at that time to just do him away and solve the problem from the very, very beginning. So what was he really doing there? Was he really their man to start with and to ride the revolution for 30 years or 20 years or whatever it took and eventually hand it back to the empire?
Chris?
Well, the Ayatollah was in France because he'd been expelled from Iraq, where he had been in exile from Iran, in the Shia Muslim holy city of Najaf, which is in Iraq. The Iraqis got nervous and expelled him. The French took him. The French like to be on both sides of all questions in the Middle East and succeed tremendously well as a general rule. I think, though, they, along with everyone else, including the Iraqis, consistently underestimated the appeal of the Ayatollah to the Iranian people. So I don't think it really crossed anyone's mind that he was a threat while he was living in Neu.
In November of this year, it's possible that we'll be able to peek into the British House of Commons. They're going to go on television for a 6-month experiment. What do you think that impact will have on Margaret Thatcher's government?
Well, it surprises me that she's allowed cameras into the chamber.
She voted against
it. Yes, but the government didn't oppose the move, which it had been expected to do. She's against it personally. I think because of the way the British Chamber is organized, people know this, Winston Churchill had it rebuilt exactly as it was after it was bombed, so there isn't enough room for everyone to sit down. This is supposed to be a very intimate atmosphere that forces people to confront one another. I mean, if you saw a British Question Time, you'd wish that the President had to face one twice a week.
Will the American audience like what they see?
I think that the effect of television on that may be dampening, actually, and it may simply tend to favor people who are good comedians or glib speakers. But I'm very traditional about that kind of thing.
You're not in favor of it?
Not terribly.
Okay. Last call from Twin Rivers, New Jersey. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I'd like to address my question to Mr. Plazinski and his views concerning the Reverend Jackson's campaign. I find that he has a problem in the fact that he mentioned Reverend Jackson's travels abroad as being something that was a dishonor to the country. I find that to be rather shocking concerning the results of Reverend Jackson's trips, which have brought back prisoners, have certainly done nothing to dishonor this country. I do find a problem with this administration, however, that has done the same thing, causing disservice to our country in Iran, Nicaragua, the problem of drug running, which this country's administration has admitted that they've been involved with. How do you square all this with your statements concerning Reverend Jackson's dishonor to this country when you have an administration that seems to have done precisely the things you're talking about?
Thank you, sir.
Well, first of all, I don't understand if cavorting with Fidel Castro or the dictator of Syria does not bring dishonor to our country, I don't know what does. Perhaps Mr. Jackson's relationship with Louis Farrakhan, probably the most virulently anti-Semitic, anti-white person in America. I mean, it is astounding that Mr. Jackson continues to enjoy respect in the political community given these relationships.